Hi, everyone. My name is Monica Kretschmer, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Universal Women's Network. And this is the Inspired Podcast, where we share stories behind the scenes with the movers and the shakers, the women of inspiration, and the men that support her. And it is my absolute honor to be speaking today with a Woman of Inspiration 2019 Mompreneur Award recipient, Jennifer Ladouceur. Did I get that right?
Yes, you did. That's perfect.
That is perfect. And I know I practice off in the green room, but I think that because I'm German, French, Canadian,
yes.
I need to practice the French version of that a little bit more.
Don't worry, so do I.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you for your understanding on that one. I think it's really important that we put the name to the face. And for those that are listening, Jennifer is the president and partner of the Women's Leadership Nation. So Jennifer, such a great honor to actually be having this intimate time with you today, because those that are listening or those that are watching, I always get asked, so the women that are actually winning Women of Inspiration Awards, we'd love to know their story. And there doesn't ever seem to be that time enough during the awards ceremony to share your story. And of course, the selection committee knows behind the scenes all the amazing things that you've done to lead you on this road of success. But those that are listening today will have the opportunity to learn more about why you are fueled to your bigger purpose and how you got there. So I'll just get you to start with, we talked in the green room and said, please just share as much as you can about your story, because it really does have a significant impact on the woman that you are today. So let's take you back to, your, let's say, teenage years. Maybe you can start there with us, or earlier if you wish.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, I've had quite an interesting journey. And, recently I've really gone back to understanding sort of why I'm at the point where I am, and really going back to as far as being a child. And I grew up in a home where my mother has severe mental health issues. And so you don't realize until later on in life what an impact that can have on you as a young child, going through dealing with and managing a mother that has significant issues it had left us for a year or two to get some treatment, and being able to having that pressure as a young person to actually have to grow up and to be able to mature, and having those expectations, as well as dealing with dyslexia, and having to really understand and navigate a world where people are telling you that, and based on the standards that schools place, that if you can't memorize or you can't read a certain way, that you're stupid. And so, having to deal with all of that was definitely something that looking back on, was really, really hard. But moving forward, you realize that you become stronger for it.
And I have to say, there's two great big issues right now. I mean, you're identifying things that are talked about nowadays. We talk about openly about, if you need support for mental health, it's not a bad thing. Please seek help, ask for help. But way back when you were growing up, your mom probably she didn't have that support system around her that she could even ask for help.
No, and I think I look back as, in my childhood, and I think, first of all, they didn't talk about it, so I didn't necessarily know that that was the issue, that one day she would be extremely happy and we would be literally writing on the walls with crayons because she wants to change the wallpaper and having so much fun, and then the next day she would be depressed and sad and wanting to kill herself, and it was our fault. And so having to balance out, we never talked about it, so we never even knew that would be something you could get help for, and it was always very, very embarrassing. And I also remember, even into my teens, they still weren't talking about it, and I didn't want to talk about it, and I also didn't want to talk to my mom about it, because I was worried, what if I get it?
Mm.
So I felt like the more I know about it, the more everybody has a down day. And so for me, though, when I was thinking, oh, I'm having a down day, I might feel it, even feeling a bit depressed. Oh, I can't be feeling that way, because does that mean that I also am like going to become mentally, am I going to have to be committed? Am I going to have to, like, I went to the far extreme.
Yeah.
And I was always like, if I'm in denial and I don't, it didn't feel comfortable. And it's amazing to see now that there's so much openness about it. And I think that there needs to be a lot more support for the children as well that are going through and growing up in a home like that, because, there's little things like, the control. You walk into just imagine you're coming home from school, you're a kid, you walk in the house and you're anxious because you're like, is it a good day or is it a bad day? And I need to do this so that I know that it continues to be a good day. And it's like that feeling that you are responsible for somebody else's happiness. Later on in life, I realized why maybe some of my marriages didn't work, or people that I selected, because it was like you bring on that need of like, oh, I'm responsible for fixing this person, right? So I think having that support for the children, other than maybe a nanny coming in to help us, nobody talked to the kids, or like it was myself and my sister, and even so much as exposure to be able to go visit her in a couple of places where we saw stuff that would terrify an adult.
Yeah.
That I think was not appropriate at that time. And yeah, it was a much more, it wasn't until later on in life that I started actually talking about it. And it's still very new for me. Yeah.
Well, I have to say the part two of that is I'm a parent of a young boy with ADHD.
Right.
And so I know that there's challenges, there's struggles, and oh my goodness, even though we can talk about even stuff like that now, and there's treatment for that, there's still a lot of misinformation about it, or even though you were able to talk about it, it still doesn't make it that much easier for you as a child to go through that. So honestly, trying to carve your place in your home, and then trying to carve your place at school, and having everybody understand what you're going through, all I can say is wow. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so you've used those forces for good.
I've tried.
Now, it still took a little while though, right? So there is more to the journey. Do you want to share a little bit more of that journey? Because it's really inspirational where you are today.
Right. So I ended up leaving home because I just couldn't take it anymore. And I left home, and I remember asking my father if I could come live with him. And he said, no, you have to stay in the home and protect your sister. And I started thinking, well, why is it my responsibility? You left. I still ended up leaving. And so I was working 2 jobs. I was going to high school. I was trying to take care of myself. I was 16 at the time. And then I started to get really bad lower back pain, and just not feeling well. I ended up going to the hospital to because I couldn't stand the pain anymore. And they said, oh, it's probably a cyst. And so I went in for an operation. And then when I woke up, they told me that, no, it's a tumor the size of a grapefruit on your ovaries. They removed one of the ovaries, and then said, you're going to have to go for, I think it was 3 or 4 rounds of chemotherapy, which was literally Monday to Friday, 3 hours every single day in the hospital. And so you would have 1 full week of chemo. You would have 1 week that you could go home that you would feel really terrible. And then you'd have 1 week where you're starting to feel good. And then you have to do it all over again. And so the hospital was actually directly across from my high school. So I had some amazing support, people coming and, you know, at lunchtime to sit on my bed and, you know, and hang out with me a bit. But it was really, really challenging. And I only found out later that they had I stopped going to school that year because it was too hard and I was too sick. And they didn't know it was quite a advanced stage and it started spreading. So they had told a tutor that was coming in to do one course, I think it was English, one course during this period. Yeah. And the tutor had been told, I found out later, that they said that, look, don't worry if she doesn't learn anything, and because she's not going to make it.
Wow.
So, you know, where I thought I was getting away with not having to do certain things, because I would say, but really,
you're so smart. You're just off the chart smart.
I'll pretend that I'm sleeping so that I don't have to do something. But really, he was told that not to worry, and I still went to, like, I think about, it was really, really hard some days. My parents, I saw them break down and cry. And I never really, we didn't have the internet. That's how old I am. So you couldn't Google it to find out how bad it was.
That is probably a saving grace. I'm just saying.
That was amazing.
That stress was no longer there.
No, because I was like, why is everybody so upset? Yeah, I feel terrible and this is horrible, but like, I'm going to get through this. And I remember being really strong and getting through it. I remember being really afraid at the first chemo treatment that it was going to hurt, or, you know, you don't know what to expect. And it didn't. So that was good. But I remember thinking in my mind, I had really long hair and I was thinking, and I'm a teenager, and I'm thinking, I'm going to break down when I lose my hair. That's when I'm going to break down. And so I bought a wig in advance and I bought everything to get ready for it. And what was amazing was one day I started running my fingers through my hair and just big clumps were coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was just like pulling it all out. And I called my girlfriend and she came over and we did crazy hairstyles. We did a mohawk, we shaved it. We ended up shaving it completely off. And what I learned from that was, you know, I had my little breakdown, but then it was like empowering that it's like, I'm not going to wait for this to fall out. I'm going to take it out. Like, I'm not going to be the victim of it. And then I forgot I had a date that night. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I wear? Like, what, you know, you think of your clothes, but what am I going to do with my head? And instead of wearing the wig, I wore a bandana. And for me, that was really like, I'm beautiful the way I am, and my hair, who cares? And it was amazing because I didn't think I would feel that way. And it was like, if you don't like me with a bandana and no hair, well then, you know, see you later. And so that was really powerful. And I think that whole journey of also realizing, this is big for me even now, is that I would sit in the basement, that's where the chemo was, and I would look out the window and I would watch all of my friends go to school because they'd have to pass by. And at any moment in your life, it could be tomorrow, you could be all of a sudden your freedom and everything is completely taken away from you, and you have to just sit there and take the medicine and do whatever the doctors say, and you're out of life. And so for me, it's always been, even if things are difficult in life or something bad happens, it's like, it's still not the worst case scenario, because I could end up being stuck at a chemo place, you know, hospital, just not being able to participate. So that was big for me.
Well, I think what's so remarkable, Jennifer, is that you had support there, but
Yeah.
probably, I'm almost sensing that it was your mindset.
Yeah, I think
you weren't willing to give up. And I'm like, I'm going on. This is just a bump in the road, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't see like the end here. I see a future. So
Yeah.
was that your mind? Like talk a little bit about your mindset, because I think it is so important that, you know, for those that are listening or those that are watching, is it's so powerful. We all will end up at some place like that that's dark. But if our mind allows us to go dark, we go dark.
That's okay. So completely, because I was very positive in terms of this is not going to get me. Like, what are people so upset about? I still had dreams. I still was like, I'm going to do this in my life. I'm going to do that. And I pushed through that. But when there was a period where near the end, like the chemo can accumulates in your body and you get so sick, where I do remember looking and almost like looking through, like there was almost nobody in the mirror, because like your mind, you almost detach from your body mentally, because it gets to such a place of it being so bad. And it wasn't that I was going to give up, but I was just like, okay, I'm like done. And what was amazing is that at that time, there was this older woman that was coming for her father. And she had such a sense of humor, and she was coming for her father to the chemo treatments. And she would make me laugh. And that was like at the worst part, is when like the last few weeks of chemo. And she ended up still continuing to come. I found out later, even though her father wasn't there anymore. And it was like, and that brightened me up. That kind of like sparked me out. So I feel like another lesson is that like sometimes you can push hard and want to be positive and be like, okay, this isn't gonna, your mindset be really in a good place. But sometimes it's just so overwhelming that you can't. And when that happens, what's really amazing is, I think in life, certain things come into your life that actually help you to, like that woman came into my life. Or, you watch, because there's like little miracles that will come and help boost you out. And that was a little thing like that. She was coming and she would make me smile. And then it was like kind of bringing life back into me. Or today it might be something you get, you're down on yourself for something, and then all of a sudden you get an email and something positive's happened. Like you have to then grab onto that. And so that was kind of my experience.
That is amazing. I hope that lady gets an opportunity to know what you've done and the success that you've actually achieved, and how her piece of her small acts of kindness towards you really helped you through a really dark time. I think that's really incredible.
No, I reached out to her over the last few years, and just kind of tried to tell her, because I think that's the other lesson is that you can also be that for other people, and it can be a small act and you have no idea what a large impact it can have in somebody's life, which is really powerful too. I'm sure everybody's experienced that, where it's like, but so I try consciously from like learning from that experience to try and be that in other people's lives too, because you don't know how much that could actually influence, or I don't know, have a positive effect, right?
Well, those are just great daily reminders for sure. That I think those are nuggets that for those that are listening or watching can definitely put into action today, because the ripple effect is massive.
Yes, absolutely.
So you got through the chemo treatment, obviously.
Yes.
Now you are a mother of 5.
So yes. So together we have 7 children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you managed to get through that process. So now we're back into school, graduating.
So I was in high school, back in high school, and they said, because I had one of my ovaries removed with the operation, and the chemotherapy put me into menopause, early menopause, they said, you'll never be able to have children. And so I'm 18 and I found out that I was pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. And so
it was the sperm fairy.
It really was.
Right? Like there's no other definition for that. It's a sperm
No.
fairy.
Yeah, and some of my friends joke, imagine if you had 2 ovaries. But it was, so it was a positive. On one hand, it was like, oh my gosh, wow, like, because even my parents had looked into the, like, can we freeze our eggs? Can we, like, I didn't care so much when I was a teenager. I was like, whatever, like, I didn't think I would want children necessarily. Like, you know, you're young, right? You don't think about it. It wasn't a big deal. Thinking back, it was, if I hadn't been able to get pregnant, that would have been a good thing. But yeah, so I was 18 and I was terrified because,
Okay.
so it was terrifying. The idea that I was, you know, on my own, living on my own, that, you know, what do I do? Like, I'm 18, I want to finish high school, I want to go to university, I want to do all of these things. Like, how am I ever going to be able to achieve all of that? But yeah, on the other side, it was, you know, maybe not the normal reaction that you would get from parents when their children tell you that they're pregnant at 18, because they were like, wow, we didn't think you'd be able to have children, so we're so happy for you.
Wow.
And I think maybe the more surprising thing was the idea of me getting married. At the same time, was more shocking and scary for them than the baby, because they were thinking, this is a miracle that you were able to even have children. But it was really scary because I wanted to go to school. I wanted to accomplish all these things. And really, in retrospect, when you look back on it, I'm completely grateful. My son, I had a boy, and he's actually, he's living in LA, and he's in e-gaming and doing extremely well. And, you know, and I'm so proud of him. But it's like when you have children at that age, on a more selfish side, you really lose your childhood or your youth of being able to go out with your friends, or to be able to study freely without, you know, having a baby or breastfeeding while you're studying, and the stress of, like, how do you balance and have enough money to go to school and to also have daycare and things like that. It was really, really, but that drove me even more. The idea that now I have a child, that I'm going to be, like, I'm not going to be a statistic. I'm going to kick ass and do everything I can to be successful. And so I studied, throughout, you know, over the few years, I always write down, and people would laugh, but I'd write down, like, my goals. And it was, I wanted to get my MBA. I wanted to see Europe. I wanted to be able to provide all the things my children need and have a beautiful, peaceful life at home, and lots of love. And, you know, thinking about those goals is doing these things at 18 when you're pregnant, have no money, and are struggling even to go to school, is kind of crazy. But when you write those out, I ended up being able to achieve a lot of them, and still working on some.
Well, I think what's incredible about that, Jennifer, again, so timely, because now law of attraction, manifesting your dreams,
Yeah.
visualizing, focus, are so important. Meditating to have clarity, to actually be that insightful, that young, and knowing, and I think probably knowing that, okay, I got through this hurdle and
Right.
I managed to be okay. So do you think that your adversity, and I think this is a really important question for you to maybe talk to, is that the adversities and the challenges that we go for life, do you think they're a blessing or a curse?
So I think they're a complete blessing, because I don't know that I would be where I am and as happy without them, because I've learned from, you know, you get in that mindset. If things are perfect and you're very comfortable, you're not pushed to have to figure things out. And I look back on, like, being able to finish my MBA and do certain things like that. some of those skills of being able to balance everything, working full time at points, being single mom, all these components and having to balance everything and just figure things out, and also deal with being able to stay up till 2 o'clock every morning, get up at 6 o'clock for work, handling all of that, it makes you just a stronger person. And so and it also makes you a more grateful person for recognizing, when good things happen and things like that. But yeah, I not that I wish for hard things to happen in my life. When it happens, like I don't look at them anymore as, oh, poor me, like what's happened. I look at it as, okay, well, there's a way of this universe is telling me you're in the wrong direction and there's going to be a turn, and I try and look at it from a perspective of like, this is exciting. What's going to be next? Because, okay, I got to get over, I have to get over this hurdle, but, there's something new.
And, I relate a lot, and I'm sure that those people that are listening that have overcome hurdles and significant challenges can go, you're never it's going to be ugly. It's going to be messy. It's going to be painful, but you do overcome it. And there is a silver lining, to all of the struggle. There is the door number 2 that's, got like a beautiful path with breadcrumbs that you follow. And that's completely not that dark road that you were on. It's a bright, peaceful, wonderful path that you're on. So I think that's really, really important. I know that we can't talk about that enough. Yeah. And I think that's what's so inspiring about your story, Jennifer, is that, it's happened to you not once, but twice, but 3 times. And then, it doesn't mean that it's not ever going to happen to you again. That's just life. Yeah,
it is. And I'm also become very spiritual in terms of just also reading about internally, how can I control, even because a lot of the times when something difficult happens, it's your emotions that actually make it feel even worse. And so the reality of feeling like there's actually no time other than right now. And so if something really bad happens, it's like, okay, at this very present moment, I'm breathing. Sometimes it's as basic as that. My kids are all healthy. You think of all the positive things like in this very moment, and your mind can go crazy with all the things that could oh my God, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And you really have to try and train yourself to like pull yourself back and just kind of, in this moment, this is what I'm going to do. And I think it's small steps as well.
And so now I'm going to probably talk about something that's uncomfortable for most women, and that's stepping into the spotlight and being acknowledged for all the great work that you've done, the journey that you've been on, and the success that you've achieved. So how did it feel to be recognized as a woman of inspiration?
Yeah, so that was, you also, I think as women, and this is really bad, but we think, well, we're not there yet, like I still have so much more to do. And so I felt very honored and privileged to be recognized, and that made me feel really good. And it also made me start to, where your mind sometimes is constantly going in that I still have to do this and I still want to achieve that. It reminds you to reflect back on, well, you've come quite a far way as well. So take the time to appreciate what you have accomplished, and then balance that with what you still have left to do. I know that in all the research I've done over the last little while of, women do have a very hard time with accepting praise or acknowledging that they're good in something, or, so I'm trying to get better at that as well.
Well, I think you're leading by example. I do have to say that the Women of Inspiration, I think your leadership will continue to grow in and inspire others by sharing your story. I know you've started speaking about it, but it's a whole new level of leadership, how we can embrace the vulnerability and say, you know, it wasn't always easy for me, and wherever you are right now, just know that if I can do it, you can do it too. It's that sisterhood that is really important.
And I think it's good to hear that from, you know, it's one thing to hear it from, say, a Oprah or Michelle Obama. You know, you could do it too, and you can be, and they're very inspiring. But I think what you're doing is amazing, because you're taking women from all areas of life, and that maybe are more relatable as well, and that can see, yeah, you know, you can come, that, you know, no matter where you are in your life, and no matter what route you've taken, that you can achieve whatever you dream of, if, you know, and really push forward.
So brings me to my next question for you, Jennifer. What is your definition of success? I'd love to know what your definition is.
It's changed over the years. I think if you had asked me when I was in, you know, university or starting my career, my definition of success would have been money, would have been more material, to be very honest. My definition of success now is just feeling good with yourself, and being happy, being able to be happy and like really know who you are, like leading authentically. That's more of my definition of success.
Yep.
And being able to embrace your family, and to really be able to see all the blessings that you have. That's more important to me now. And I think it also, you can't be successful if you're not also generous in terms of being able to give it back. And so for me, that's really a big part of it as well. So I've dedicated this next phase of my life more to like making a difference. And
yay, we love you. We love you. And we are super excited to have you a part of our Women's MentorHER mentorship program, which is, you know, to complete that circle of reciprocity, because if you have knowledge,
yeah,
you got to share it.
Yeah,
that's it.
Definitely. So,
game changing. That's how we change the world, is we share our knowledge.
Yeah. I was on the phone with a lady just yesterday, and I was giving her ideas for her business, and I'm trying to help her. And she was like, I don't know what to say. I can't believe you're helping me. And so that's, you know, we need to make it so that it's not shocking that people would help you for free. Do you know what I mean? Like, or that they don't wish, like, I wish the best for like everybody. So to be able to have that, it also fills you up, right? And so that's sort of my next phase, is just trying to make a difference.
So I think I'm always asked that question. I always ask the question, who is a woman of inspiration to you? And the definition, I'm going to read you your definition because I think it's really interesting. Okay. Because I pulled it up here. Just give me a second. Okay. Jennifer's definition of a woman of inspiration is quite simple. Excuse me. I believe it's a woman who, despite all challenges, failures, and disappointments, continues to move forward with a strong sense of purpose and a passion for making a difference.
Yeah.
So when I read these extraordinary definitions of a woman of inspiration, it mirrors the woman that I have had the honor to actually award and get to know.
Thank you. Wow. Yeah. Well, I try to, you know, live that and I think also with my children, I try and, you know, bring that out in them as well. And so, yeah, and it's amazing. The other amazing thing is just seeing and being connected with all of these women. And I feel like there's, over the last few years, there's really a movement of like women supporting women, and also men supporting women as well, and each other, but really us having each other's backs. And trying to raise each other up, right? And that's so powerful.
It's absolutely critical. And I love the fact that you also mentioned the men. We just did our rebrand, right? We got rid of just, we evolved our company so that we can commit to gender equality. And as moms of boys, they have a voice and they play such an important role as they're going to be a father to some kids someday, or a great partner to some woman. But I don't know, there's so many men, great men in my world, that have helped guide me as an advisor or as a mentor, as a friend, that have really helped me on my journey. And I think it's really important that we actually start acknowledging the men that are allies in our lives. So
I agree completely.
I think that's the next real stage, how we're going to really raise the bar to make big change, is not exclude them, but include them.
Exactly. No, I agree completely.
Well, I am super excited to have had this opportunity to share, your background and your story. Now, you are president and partner of the Women's Leadership Nation. So I would love for you to share a little bit about that with our viewers and our listeners today, because that is where you are today. And if maybe you can share a little bit of background about what you do, what that is, and perhaps where you see yourself the next 5 years.
Yeah, so I decided over my past careers, I've experienced, no matter where I've been, starting out in venture capital and even in the government side, that why is it that we're not able to close the gender gap? And I spent the last 5 years trying to do significant research and trying to understand why we're not, in corporations and organizations, being able to close that gap and create more unified workplaces. And so we've created a whole new model and approach, a more holistic approach to going in and working with the leaders and developing and creating programs and bringing in external partners as well, and creating a holistic approach to working both with the men and the women to create a more unified workplaces. So my goal over the next 5 years is actually to start working with companies that and help them close the gender gap, and in the organizations, working on doing research for writing a book as well. And because I feel like there's a whole new theory and approach to that can be done, because we're actually moving backwards in some industries. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to be interviewing lots of women and men to try and understand within the organizations what needs to change. And I've also applied to do my PhD. So we'll find out about that.
Wow. Congratulations. I see that happening. I want to come to your graduation.
Okay, I will definitely invite you. So
thank you. Make sure that I'm on that list, because I'd be happy to be your cheerleader for that one, because that's a huge accomplishment. Very cool.
That was on my high school list and it would just mean the world to me. So I thought, well, if you're writing a book, why not do your dissertation? So so that's going to be kind of my focus in the next little while. Yeah.
Okay, so talking about authenticity, my sidekick, someone came up to the door, and so anyways, she went a little cray-cray. So back to our interview and to the celebrating your success for the vision of your PhD, your book about moving the needle in corporate companies and really getting to the source of why we can't move it faster. And it takes an army, it takes lots of many hands and lots of conversations. So I'm happy to have those more with you, and anything that we can do to help and support you on that journey as well. Support her. That's a big goal of mine. So I think that there's lots of opportunities to get on some stages and elevate the leadership and really move it together and open up those doors for conversations to happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was you know, right after, so my dad passed away on a motorcycle accident, and it was a surprise, obviously. And so you realize, you know, life is so short that you need to be doing what you love. And that was the day, you know, a few months later that I quit my corporate job and decided I'm going to just focus on my purpose. And I think one of my purposes is to help close this, try and contribute in some way to make a difference and close the gap, so that my children and your children don't have to go through what I know I experienced in certain environments, or, you know, in certain industries. And if I can make a difference there. And the other thing is, you know, I was always going to school, working late at night, trying to nonstop. And so, you know, I really didn't get to spend the quality time with my children either. And so now we have an 8-year-old, and, you know, I'm able to work from home a lot. So I'm able to see him. It's a big deal before he goes to school and when he comes back. And even if it's just for a few minutes, and I'm able to be there more. And so I'm choosing too to balance the progression of growth, which sometimes you struggle with. I struggle with sometimes, even, you know, everybody still struggles a bit to be like, you know, you want to grow faster, but I'm balancing that with, no, I'm going to also take the time to be and enjoy while he's still young, that aspect, right? So.
Oh my, coming from one single mother to another, it is a work in process, right? And making sure that you are there, present with them. It's a real tough.
It is.
It's a tough balance. There is no such thing as balance. I just think we constantly do our best that we possibly can, and hope that we're going to be raising the best kids that we possibly can, and leading by example.
Yeah. And you know what? I have to give my husband credit too, because he actually also pushes me to not work. So I'm a bit of a workaholic. And I'm sure a lot of, and so, you know, he also in his wisdom has been like encouraging me to say, okay, let's put it down. Let's just, you know, do this or do that. And so,
let's have a family time. Let's have family time. Let's powwow about that.
So it's been great that way too, for sure. So.
Well, I think there's so many lovely nuggets of wisdom that you shared with us in the interview today. It's been an absolute pleasure to finally have this one-on-one time with you. And I hope that the people that are listening know a little bit more about you and what drives you to the success that you're achieving, and that they can too achieve great things, and whatever that definition of success is to them. It's so extremely personal. But it's not all about the money. Money's great. It does help. I'm just saying, let's not dismiss that.
And you definitely have
definitely do need money, but what fuels our purpose, not necessarily is the money fueling our purpose.
Right. Yeah.
So thank you, Jennifer. Any last words of wisdom for those that are listening to the Inspire podcast that you just felt like you need to share?
I guess the biggest thing is when you're feeling, if you are in a situation where, you know, you're feeling stuck, or, you know, I think that reaching out to this network of incredible women, like, don't be afraid to do that, you know, and don't be afraid to put yourself out there and connect, because I feel like we can all feed off of each other's energies and inspiration, and that would be the biggest thing. And also just grateful to be part of this. So I'm grateful to have met you, and I'm excited about 2020 is going to be incredible, and I will definitely call you if I get accepted for my the PhD program. I'll definitely call you.
Well, we have a monthly success call on the first Wednesday of each month, and what we do religiously is, because I don't think we do that enough, is to celebrate our successes.
Yes.
We go around the round table, we bring up something that is of a challenge to us. And usually one person brings something up and we all jump in to sort of help support that challenge, and it helps us all in many ways. But then we all are able to acknowledge what we want to celebrate for that month. And sometimes there's one thing that's really significant. Maybe we've had 20, but there's at least one, if not many, many more. So I look forward to you sharing that with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, and 2020 is going to be amazing. It's going to be a rock star year. I know that we're going to publish this podcast, and it will be out live evergreen for everybody to get to know Jennifer a little bit more. I'm going to put your contact information in the links, so they'll have the links in order to click onto that. Now, for those that are listening, they don't have the links. Where can they go to find out more about your work?
Right. So womenleadershipnation.com.
Perfect. Easy peasy. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. It's a true blessing. I look forward to moving mountains with you and raising that bar 2020 and beyond. Thank you so much for your time, and what a blessing to have this be on this journey with you.
Oh, thank you. Have a great holiday.
Thank you. Happy holidays to you too, Jen. Bye.
Bye.